When I got into this business, I actually told people that I'm only going to have to work when I want to work. I literally, I remember a conversation with my dad who does, he was like, still does a lot of side work. And I was like, Dad, this is going to be great. Once I get rolling, if I want to just like take a week off and come and help you with some jobs, I could just leave. Like I actually said those
Come
words.
on, are you serious? But
Yeah.
yeah,
And in hindsight now, I'm going, you're an idiot.
you know what though? But you're not wrong. Like I'd had a couple of really busy days where I was working, long days, and then yesterday it was a beautiful afternoon, and and I just said, you know what? I'm gonna close my computer. I'm gonna run home, pick up my wife and my baby, and we're gonna go out. And we walked around, and then yeah, spent like an hour and a half together, and then we got home, put baby down, and then I just, logged on when it was dark out, right? So there are some benefits to that lifestyle for sure.
Absolutely. But and have you been able to do that since day one though?
No, of course not. No.
The first, I always think back to like, it's funny, 6 years in the business now, I still feel like a rookie some days where I'm like,
Hmm.
there's people been doing this for 30 years and I'm like, haven't even hit double digits yet. But I also look around at how many other agents are, 1 year in, 2 years into the real estate industry. And I'm like, no, I'm actually probably in the middle of the pack, I think, because, yeah, over 6 years. But I still think back to like, the beginning, like when I got into this and why I got into it, I think is the same for a lot of people where I'm going to work for myself. And I can get into like the whole journey on how that happened for me. But I think, a lot of people get into working for themselves and think that they're going to have tons of flexibility and they're going to be able to call the shots. And
Right.
it's just not that way. In
No, I
my
mean,
instance, I mean, I'm interested to hear your take on it because, while we're still in the same industry, we have two very different jobs.
yeah, right. So me with the mortgage lending, typically a lot of stuff gets done during office hours because that's when most of the lenders that I work with are in the office, right? So for me, a lot of my work comes between that 8 to 5 type of time frame there. So it is a bit different where I'm sort of locked down during regular office hours a little bit more than you because a lot of the times when you're doing showings with clients, it's when they're not working, which is evenings and weekends. So for me, yeah, like I do feel like it is very hard to leave my desk during, daytime office hours. But it definitely over the years, like you mentioned, like it's changed where, yeah, if I do need to take a little bit of time off to go to a medical appointment with my family or something, yeah, then I'll just log back in the evening to get caught up. So yeah, there are days when you're kind of like, you do work a 12-hour day. And then there's days when you can just get away with 5, right? So ups and
Yeah.
downs for sure. Yeah.
I remember when I started, I don't think I worked less than 16 hours for like the first year.
No.
Like every day was just wake up at 6, at my desk by 7, and it was just all day, all night. And it was funny because I didn't even have clients back then. I sit here now, I'm like, what the heck were you doing all day?
Yeah.
But it's the grind of starting that business and making sure that people know that it exists, right?
Right.
That was my
Right.
whole thing. Because when I started, I didn't have a big pool of people. Like I
Of
didn't
course not.
have a big like I didn't grow up here. So I don't have like a lot of my friends don't live here. They live in a different province, so I can't even help them. Like I'm only licensed in Manitoba, so they're useless.
They're
Uh,
useless.
my
They're
friends
useless.
are useless.
Yeah.
But so here I didn't have a big sphere of people to go to, right? So for me, like obviously I reached out to who I could, but for me a lot of it was trying to get organic kind of growth and people to just like find my name and reach out to me and then having to convince them that I actually knew what I was doing and just because I was new. I had the whole fake it till you make it thing when I
Right.
started. It was tough. And I think like when I started, that was probably the biggest thing that I didn't. Obviously, I knew I was gonna have to work hard, right? If you're gonna start your own business, you know you're gonna have to work hard.
For sure.
And if you don't, newsflash, you're going to have to work really hard if you want to have any kind of long-term success with it. But at the same time, like I don't know, if it was kind of like one of those things. Like, do you know how much you're biting off when you decide to work for yourself? So, like in your instance, like, we both came from corporate jobs,
Hmm.
and we've been in the real estate industry together for about I think you're a year longer than me, right? Seven
Yeah,
years?
7 years. Yeah, seven. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 6 years. Paul's mortgage broker. I'm
Hmm.
Tyler, the realtor.
Hmm.
And yeah, when I got into it, it was leaving a corporate job, leaving that salary job, and making that jump into self-employment, be your own boss. And it was kind of scary. And I think, I wanted to kind of just share that journey for anyone who might be looking to do the same, whether it's in real estate or a different industry. If you've got a secure job, and you're leaving it, you know, careful what you wish for. It might not be everything you expect. And, what's your take on that, Paul, from like
Yeah.
when you left your job? What was it like at the beginning?
No, for sure. And I think like I mean, I'm gonna probably echo a lot of what you said there, but I think the sentiment is like most people when they want to go, like a lot of people say, I want to work for myself. Like I want to be my own boss. I don't want to be told what to do. I want to take holidays when I want to take holidays. The more I work, the more I make. And I think a lot of when people talk about becoming self-employed, they often center it around control of their day, control of their time, right? And I think what often happens, and there's a really good book that a good friend of mine passed on to me. It's called Clockwork, and basically
Ooh,
yeah, Clockwork. It's Clockwork. Mike, I'll have to figure out I'll get the author's name, but I'll put it in the notes. But it's about basically how a lot of people become self-employed to be their own boss, and then they ended up just becoming employees of their own business. So they were employees before, and now they're basically employees of their new business. Like so, basically, a lot of people don't actually become an owner. Like an owner is someone that kind of sits up top and manages or looks down on the business and sort of high level runs a business. But a
yeah.
lot of people just don't get out of their own way and they just become slaves to their own business. So you're working just you're an employee of your business. So like this book talks about like how do you give up control? How do you hire? How do you um just offload some of the tasks onto other people so you can focus on the real reasons that you became self-employed and maybe your passions and your purpose. So I think for a lot of people, you want to be your own boss, you want to have flexibility, and then all of a sudden you become kind of locked or chained down to your business. And it's almost worse because now there's no guaranteed pay and you're working more hours, right?
Absolutely. And I wanted to chime in there and just say, like, I can echo the same on my own side. And for, I'd say year 2 and 3, like, that's exactly what happened for me was got into it. Because what happened was I got laid off. And that's how I ended up getting the final push. Thanks,
Yeah.
COVID. But thank you, COVID, because it actually ended up working out. But I got laid off, and then I just was like, I can't believe someone just told me I can't go to work today. Like I'm healthy, I'm willing, I want to go to work, and I was just told that I couldn't. So I said, screw that. I'm doing it myself. I'm going to start my own business, and that's how I got into real estate. And yeah, there was that illusion of I'm gonna control my own time. I'm gonna, work when I want to work and as hard as I want to work. And then I think I ended up becoming my own employee, but with, like you say, no salary, no benefits, no pension, no anything. And things got really stressful and it was like, oh, what have we done?
Yeah.
And I can say, like, I worked in a corporate world, so I had as much business knowledge as that company wanted to teach me. I didn't go to business school. I didn't go to, I didn't have a lot of experience running necessarily large scale operations. I was capable of running a small team, but with resources that a corporate company provided. So when you start your own business, you don't have any of that. Like, sure, you might know how to hold a team meeting and talk to people, but that company gave me a boardroom. That company gave me all the supplies that I needed. That company gave me an expense account. That company gave me a laptop and everything that I needed to do my job. And my company did not. You're on mute, bro.
Sorry, bud. Just dealing with a little spring cough here. I don't know why I'm coughing still. Anyway, basically, though, it's one of those things where now all of a sudden there's so many other challenges. Like, so now you're an employee of your business, but you're also the owner of your business. So you're basically two roles. So you're doing twice the work almost.
Oh
It's like,
yeah.
how do you do taxes as an employee of your business? How do you do corporate taxes? Like, there's so many more things that you bite off that maybe you weren't aware of up front. But I would never look back. Like, I honestly wish I would have started this even earlier, but as long as I think you understand what you're getting into and you have good people around you, and you know what you're getting into, I think it could be a really cool opportunity for your life for sure.
Yeah, I think 100% that is accurate. And I guess that's maybe if you take away one thing from this episode is it's the just try to do enough research to understand what you're getting into because it's I think for so many people not what they thought. I have
Yep,
friends
yep.
that are agents that came into the business and left the business, left, came back, left again, and now they're coming back and they're bouncing back and forth. I got people that I know that are doing it part time
Hmm.
because you're allowed to do that now in Manitoba. But at the same time, like it's for me, it was all in, right? There was no part time. It wasn't an option. It was this is my full time gig now. This is all I do,
Yeah,
and it's still that way. And like I would agree with you. I wish I had started this when I was younger, but I didn't. So we're here where we are now. But there's definitely a whole like learning curve to this with a bunch of information that's never really put out there. And I guess that's part of what this whole show is kind of pulling back the curtain on some of those things that are not necessarily always talked about, right? It's really easy to find the awesome positive things
yeah.
about starting your own business, right? To fill up the plus column, a lot of it's assumptions and honestly a lot of it's not even true.
Hmm.
And but no one really talks about the negatives, right?
Yeah.
So I think for me, if I gonna label a few challenges, like when I started, I thought I was gonna have all the time and the flexibility, right? I thought I was gonna be able to basically, this is gonna sound so bad, but I thought like income would be like a tap. Like I could just like as
Okay.
much as I wanted to work, I would make equal money. Because that when you work in corporate for so long, it's sort of like that's kind of the way it works. You work harder, you make more sales, you get paid more money. And I thought here and that that's kind of how that would go.
Yeah.
But when you're your own boss running your own company, the more you grow, the more you have to invest in your company. All of a sudden, now you need a CRM system, and now you need an office space, and now you need, all these other things. So those cost money, and like there's no overhead that covers that. So that has to come out of your pocket. So for the first couple of years, it was just a little shocking on how much, you know, if I was to take the growth as a line graph,
Hmm.
the expenses went just as fast or higher and then, yeah, like you say, you're paying taxes on top of that, and then you're paying, yourself a little bit of money. And for me, the income was not what I thought it was. There was a nice number on the paper, but when
Yeah.
I looked at what ended up in my spending account, it was like, man, I am working way too hard to
Right.
have,
Right.
like this number.
Yep.
Um, it was enough to obviously get by and survive and continue to invest in the company to get it to where it is now, but it's just not what I thought. And I
Right.
think, if you're somebody who's starting your own business, even if it's not in the real estate industry, I feel like that holds true. Like if you're starting a restaurant, you need a building, you need tables and chairs and cooking
Oh,
equipment
it's
and food
absurd.
supply. I couldn't imagine how you make any money starting a
Yeah.
restaurant.
Well, no, and you're not wrong. And I think one of the things I did pretty well with my like recon, trying to like ask around. And yeah, I worked in, for other people for the first, 10 years of my like real working career. Maybe it was like 8 years after university. And during that time, and again, I mentioned earlier, yeah, I wish I would have started self-employment earlier. I think though the reason why I did take off running so quickly in this new industry was because of my years of connections in all those previous roles. I had a lot of people that I could, reach out to and that trusted me and had worked with me in other capacities. So they trusted me back then, so they trusted me in this new role, right? And so I think without a lot of that work experience, I would have had a slower start with this new role. And
Yeah.
so, I learned a lot about like you said, like teamwork and communication and stuff like that. So I never regret or look back at those previous roles. But yeah, with income, and I think even I heard a thing yesterday about some of the NHL hockey players, what their, you hear their salaries 10 million American, but they're working in Canada. And so then there's Canadian taxes, there's American taxes, there's agent fees, there's personal trainers, there's like the jock tax when they go to different, like it's
Oh yeah.
crazy. 10 million US, becomes like 6 million Canadian after it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Like just with the taxes, the agent fees. And so same with business, it's like you hear the big numbers, but it's like, I've got staff, I've got rent fees, I've got IT fees, I've got like software fees for three different things. I've got fees for there's fees. It's all fees. It's all fees.
So much of it.
And
Do people really think that they're gonna let someone go out there and make 10 grand for doing one transaction and like they actually get to keep all that money?
no,
No,
no.
no.
I
It's
mean,
just not, that's not how it is. And if you're sitting here thinking, I'm gonna be a realtor, look at them. They see the cars, they see you know, the agents who do really, really well, you know, yeah, they're
the
walking
TV
around.
shows, yeah.
They look like $1 million all the time, even here where we live, but it's those agents, you have no idea how much work it takes to get to that point. Like, we're not in New York, we're not in Los Angeles, right? So,
Yeah.
to get to that point here with our average sale price, and I won't get into market stuff, but just like it takes a lot. So, if that's what you're basing your potential future on here, get ready for your whole world to get rocked because it ain't that way. It's
Right.
a grind. And the only way that you can get to that point is like learning how to build your business so that you have enough systems in place that you can manage everything without you physically having to do it. Like for me at my point now, I have a lot of stuff running in the background that's automated so that I can manage multiple clients at the same time. That's the only way you can make any money is stacking clients. You can't do one deal a month and expect to drive a Mercedes and have this gorgeous house and, you know, live the lavish lifestyle that, real estate industry portrays because it's just not going to happen.
No, no, it's and I mean too, there are sacrifices, and we were just talking about earlier, you mentioned like some people will jump into different careers sort of halftime, right? Like this may be their side hustle. And
Yeah,
I think too for those people in that type of a setup, they're I don't know. I don't know how you can like I don't know how you can really depending what it is. If all of a sudden money's not an issue, like if you're just doing the side hustle for fun, to get out of the house, to have some purpose, and you don't really care about the money, then
yeah,
sure, do it part time. But I think when you're doing it part time, it's so hard to become an expert at something, and it's so hard to stay in the loop. At least in my industry, there's changes every day, and lender
same here.
policies, yeah, lender policies and government changes and bank and just there's a lot of rules and a lot of things we have to do when it comes to like AML, like money laundering, and just like there's so many things we have to know and do. And if you're not in this full time, it's hard to know your stuff and it's hard to be confident when you meet with clients because we're the ones that they're coming to with these major transactions. The probably the biggest financial transaction and the most stressful thing they're going to do, typically in your life are buying homes. So if you're doing it at halftime, it's really hard to be the person that can really confidently guide them. And so I think as well, there are challenges and so if you are going to be someone that really wants to like succeed, I guess maybe financially or like doing a ton of units and a ton of volume, you're going to have some stressful times with even navigating family, right? And
Absolutely.
when do you shut it off? Because if clients and industry partners are calling you, that's how you make your money. And if you don't pick up their calls, they'll start calling someone else. But then if you're with your family might feel like chopped liver, right? So there's a lot of things to consider when getting into this industry for sure.
Yeah, you're gonna get if you make the jump into running your own business, you're gonna get slammed with the 16, 17-hour days of doing the actual job, which is gonna be a massive, mental load. And then on top of that, you're gonna get slammed with family life and the
Mhm.
lack of it, right? Because if you're working for 16 hours a day, last I checked, there's only 24 hours in one day you have to sleep at some point in time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't leave a lot of free time for, having dinner with your spouse or hanging out with your kids if you got kids. So it's something you should really think about. And like, I am so, so, so lucky and fortunate that my wife is just a rock star and awesome. And when we did this, when we made this jump, we had a big chat about like, look, this is going to be kind of crazy for the first little while here.
Hmm.
And, she was fully on board and and was just a major cheerleader and still is to this day. And if my phone rings at dinner, she's the first person to say like, "Everyone quiet, Dad's gonna take a phone call," and like there is no, none of that stuff. So I hate that. We try to minimize as much as we can, but it's possible
Right.
it happens, and you're at your kid's soccer event or whatever, and they're on the field, and you got to step away to take a call. True story.
Yeah,
Hate that stuff, but it's part of the business, right? And we are going to get into some of the benefits of this whole journey because there
for
are some good
sure.
things. It's
Yeah.
not all bad,
No, it's amazing.
but
Yeah.
yeah, you're going to get hit with that combo of work and family, and it's tough to manage.
I think one thing that I did off the hop, which actually turned a lot of heads, I think, where I worked was I was pretty I was pretty ruthless. Sorry, the first year or two, I did pick up every single phone call wherever I was. And I actually kind of look back and I sort of regret some of it where I'd be at like an Easter dinner or Christmas Eve lobster night and steak and with my whole family and phone rang and I'd just jump and I'd be gone. And then I'd come back potentially stressed because I was also new to the industry
Yep.
and and then my
But
demeanor changed and it wasn't fair to everyone, right?
yeah, but
Did you
don't you
want to
think
jump?
you have to do that stuff though?
You
Because I
do,
was the
you do,
same.
you do.
Like you
So
wouldn't be maybe in the spot where you're at now if you hadn't done that.
no, you're right. So I think you have to. And I think what I did though was after maybe 2.5 years, maybe 3 years in, I kind of was at a breaking point where I was just like overwhelmed slash kind of stressed and I wouldn't say grumpy, but like often the times I wasn't pleasant to be around,
Yeah, yeah, that
and
checks
and and
out.
and it still am, and so anyway, the way that it worked though was, or people would kind of just, how was your day, and then they would just hear me dump just how stressed I was. So I think what I had to do, and my wife again, just like yours, super champion. She's actually the one that pushed, not pushed, but she definitely supported me and said, "You take a leap of faith, jump in and do this. You're gonna kill it." So,
Yeah.
but early 3 years in, it was getting to the point where both of us were like, "Okay, you have to do something different." And that's when I hired an assistant who's been amazing, and she's really helped me level up our business together. And but also take back some of that time, right? And
Yeah.
then now I just love it. So I think early on, what I did though was after year two, year three, then I started setting some expectations, and even off the hop, for the most part, I was more with my industry partners and my clients. I said, hey. Just like you, I have a family, so I typically work, 8 to 5, 8 to 6, but evenings and weekends, I just email only, and that was really good. Where most of my colleagues, around the clock answering their phone, and early on, as early as I could, I kind of set some boundaries on my time, which has been amazing for sure.
Yeah, and that's massive, and you have to do that. And my broker's given some good advice too around that because so I'll say your first, I guess to chunk it out in a time, like your first 3 years are sort of like the make it or break it years. Like I know they say like something like 80% of realtors don't make it past 5 years. I think your first 3 years are you have to almost say yes to everything, but at
Yeah.
the same time, that doesn't mean that you are everyone's whipping boy or girl and you have to
No.
do everything they say. That's not what that means.
No.
It just means like when an opportunity comes up, it might not be, the beautiful listing that you're hoping to get that week. It might be some vacant land in the middle of nowhere. You say yes and you go list it. I don't know anything about vacant land. Well, go learn it.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by saying yes to everything. But my broker gave good advice when it comes to the whole family time and all that stuff. And it's like your response to those things will dictate your client's expectations, right? So
Yep.
if they call you at 7:30 and you respond at 7:31 and give them 45 minutes of your time, that will be your client's expectation. And if you shoot them a text, say, "Hey, sorry, I missed your call. I'm just at a family dinner. I'll get you back first thing in the morning, unless this is an emergency." Most times they'll say, "That's fine. Just give me a call in the morning," right? And you can kind of control that and I
Sure.
think feel that out as best that you can. But
But
I'll say too, from our industry, people settle into like a groove. And I
yeah.
know, like for me, when I started, the types of clients I was working with and the types of homes I was listing sort of set the tone for my business, and it's remained consistent.
Okay.
I've
Yeah.
sold everything. I've sold $100,000 houses. I've sold $2 million houses, but I'd say that the bulk and the average has remained consistent since day one based on how I interact with clients, how my clients perceive me. Those people recommend, to their friends and family who are just like them, and it sort of gets that way. So I think your first 3 years, it's critical to sort of set those
Yeah.
expectations with yourself and those boundaries,
Yep.
but at the same time, know that if you are somebody who's just going to jump when everyone says, jump, you're
You're
going to
gonna
be
burn
doing
out.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, and
and
you're
you'll
gonna
be doing
burn
that
out.
forever.
And you'll be known for that, right? So here's my thing too. It all depends what you want. So in this life, I want to, my family, my faith. Like there's a lot of things in my life that really drive everything that I do. That's my number one. And a lot of that is I've always had this inner dog in me that I want to be top. I want to grind. I want to succeed. I want to win. That's always been in me, but it's the struggle between the other aspects that really guide my values, right? So it's tough where I think you can do it, but you can do it all.
Hmm.
Um, I've done really well these last couple of years to the point where yeah, like I never would have dreamed I would have taken off this quick with this industry. But I guess what I'm getting at is like my office hours, and again, from the day one, the way I see it is every client, if I've done my job during office hours, they shouldn't even have to call me in the evenings because I've kept them up to date. So when I'm checking out at 4, 5, 6 p.m., giving updates, that way the client's not stressing all evening, the realtor's not stressing all evening, and then I don't have to get interrupted all evening, right? So I've done a really good job with my systems of like keeping everyone up to date. My phone, doesn't ring in the evenings unless it's unknown numbers, and unknown numbers in the evenings go to voicemail, and then I return those in the morning. So there should never be an urgent thing, even if Tyler's clients are offering at 7 p.m. I will have told them everything they need to know by 5 p.m. That way, when I'm going to my family dinner, like I don't have to keep answering the phone because there's no reason that they need to call me at 7 if I did my job right during the day. So I've really set my schedule up that way. And then evenings when I did say I work long days, that's me in my basement with music on, hammering out emails, doing tax stuff. But client facing stuff is, yeah, our office hours for sure. That's the way I've set up my business and it's been phenomenal.
Yeah, no, and that's great. And I guess that's too, like, it'll change based on whatever industry or job you're going after, right? So for us, if you're coming into it as a real estate agent, um, sorry to burst your bubble, that's just literally not possible
Yeah,
on
you'll
my
have,
side of things.
yeah,
And
fair,
I'm not,
fair.
yeah. So like from Paul's side of things as a mortgage broker, yeah, 100%, you can do that. And kudos to you for setting that up because I do know that there are other brokers who do not work that way.
Mhm.
But look at your success and you look at your track record, and obviously it's working, right?
Yeah.
If you're getting into it as a real estate agent, I'll tell you, prepare to give up your evenings and your weekends and your weekdays. So all of it, just give it all up.
Yeah, yeah.
Not to say you won't have any free time, but it's funny. It's kind of the flip. All the time that I thought that I would have for free, I'm working, and all the time that I thought I'd be working is my free time. So, like for example, we're both big golfers. I golf weekday mornings,
Yeah.
most of the time while everyone's at work.
Yeah.
But I'm on the golf course, try to get off between 6 or 7 a.m. Back at my desk by 10, 11 a.m. People go, oh, must be nice. And it's like, yeah, but you go home at 4 or 5 o'clock and you're having dinner. I've got showings that start at 3 and go till 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And I'm not pulling in the driveway until 10 p.m. And the crazy thing is you can have a whole week set up in our industry where, well, I'll say my side of the industry where you've got, it looks like Friday's a nice day off. Hey, wife, let's plan dinner. And then, a client, calls you and says, hey, I'm in town for a house hunting trip. Friday's my only day. I gotta leave, 9 a.m. Saturday morning. We have 4 hours to look at houses. Well, you have two options.
Yeah.
You can tell that person, you know what, unfortunately, I have dinner with my wife planned. So here's another agent that can help you out. And you can take what's called a referral, which is like a small percentage of whatever they end up buying, but you're putting the trust into another agent's hands that they're going to get them across the finish line. Or you could say, hey, sorry, wife, we're going to have to reschedule dinner. I got to work. And
Hmm.
that is the more popular option because you get all of the deal and you're in control of the sale and all of that stuff. So you can have your whole week set up and it can just all get thrown into the blender with one phone call, one text. And
Yeah.
it can be a challenge to have to adapt to that.
We had this talk yesterday though, and it's the whole grass is greener, and it still does creep into my brain sometimes. And I made the joke to Tyler yesterday. I'm like, oh man, I should just come work with you and be a realtor because
Yeah, because you
I,
called me. What
I
was I doing? I was
you
drinking
were
beer in my
you're
garage.
drinking beer in the garage, and then the day before you were cutting your grass, and I was just sitting at my desk, and it was 30 to, well, it was nice and hot.
Almost felt like 30 degrees.
Yeah, it was a nice, beautiful day, and then again, I logged off around 5, and then you worked till 10. So, there are pros and cons to each industry, and the funny thing is too, I think I don't know if people listening have ever done like personality tests or like discs or just different ways where you can kind of learn about like a lot of people don't even know what drives them or don't even know what they like, but I think too like for my personality type, I like structure, I like routine. So the way that you just described how your week can go would drive me crazy. I would not be able to handle the the comings and goings and the changing and the altering and the last
Oh
minute
yeah.
stuff. Stresses me out. So I guess you got to kind of figure out like, hey, are you okay with that, or do you like structure, or that might be something to think about, right?
And it's funny, and well, as we go through this show, the episodes are all gonna. I hope anyone listening still is gonna probably have a good idea what the show is gonna be about. But we're gonna be talking about all the challenges and the benefits of running your own business.
Hmm.
And I'll say for me, I am somebody historically who needs structure, and it's something I still struggle with every day of like waking up because in this job, no 2 days are the same, right? You can have certain things like I have a calendar where I have like reoccurring blocks Monday to Friday. This is what you're going to do. And they never stay there. They're constantly being dragged around. Like I
Yeah, yeah.
always have to move them. They never stay. So it's challenging. And you know what? 9 to 11 a.m. is my time. I'm not moving it. That is me time. And
Hmm.
then someone calls and says, hey, $1.3 million house. I can see at 9 a.m. tomorrow. All of a
Done.
sudden that block becomes real negotiable.
Well,
You
yeah, and
just slide
like,
it down to
yeah,
11 and you're like,
yeah.
okay, well, that's going to bump my lunch meeting, but I can reschedule that to the next day and whatever. And so for someone who really used to crave structure, I've just had to learn to just kind of go with the flow and be more fluid. And I'm not gonna lie, that has bled into the rest of my life in a good and bad way.
Sure.
Whereas I used to be the person that would get really frustrated and annoyed with friends who were just kind of loosey goosey with the schedule. I still stress, the importance of being on time and all of that and keeping your commitments, but understand now that stuff happens, things come up,
Yeah.
and you got to be able to kind of roll with it. And if that's not something that you're able to do, being a real estate agent is going to be a real shock to the system for you because that is the life. It's this job is literally a lifestyle. It's
Yeah, it
you
is.
can't get into it just thinking you're going to work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, weekends off. I think I even said this at one point in time too, is like, I'm going to build my business in a way that like I'm the agent that doesn't work weekends. If you can't see it 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, maybe some evenings, then like we're just not going to work together. And I'm like, I'm going to starve. So
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. You can do that. It's just
100% you
you
can.
might not make the money that you want to make. And so I think the really positive thing here though is that like, in a lot of senses, like in some jobs that, maybe you're listening and you work at a company where maybe you're, the newest employee in the department, you're probably getting some of the undesirable shifts. You're probably making 20% less than the 10-year, 15-year veteran in the same role as you, just based on seniority and time with the company. And there's probably times when you're like, man, I'm doing all the work, and the senior employee is just sitting back chilling. How is this
Yep.
fair? And so I think for me too, when you think about, working at different places, obviously if you're coming from like a commissioned job, there, like you mentioned, Tyler, the more sales you make, the higher the commissions are. But same with self-employment. I think typically the harder you work or the more you put into it, the higher the income potential, which is really cool. Where yeah, if you really bust your butt, you will make more money.
Yep.
But then, like we mentioned, the more money you make also comes with more costs too, like more expenses. As you scale, you need to realize that you might also
Yeah.
hit like a point where you have to like pay for help too, right?
Yep. And I think like that first 3 years being that critical window when you start, because that stuff kind of it plateaus after there. I think at that point you should have the right systems in place, the things that you need outside maybe hiring help. But you've gotten the equipment, the setup that you need to do your job. You've invested in the right software and the systems and whatever to keep your business running. And then from there, you can really you can hammer it out and go crazy, and you can get yourself that Mercedes. And maybe we'll transition into talking about some of the benefits. My life right now, if I was to call up 20-year-old me and kind of paint a little picture for him,
Hmm.
he'd there's no way I'd believe myself,
Right.
and this isn't a flex or anything like that. This is just a result of working your ass off for 6 years straight, not taking vacation, not, prioritizing me time, not prioritizing those things. Now I can actually do that. And I have all kinds of quotes and stuff that get sent to me on a daily basis. There's part of my daily motivation. But one of them that I got yesterday was, if you choose to do the easy stuff, life gets harder. If you choose to do the harder stuff first,
Yeah.
life gets easier. And I think that's what I did was I sat down and said, you know what? I'm gonna put vacations on hold. I'm gonna put hanging out with friends and stuff on hold. I'm gonna stop, doing all the things that I was doing when I had my corporate job, and I'm just gonna work. That's all I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna bury myself in my career, in my job. I'm gonna get so good at it, and I'm just gonna do the hard stuff first. And now things are getting easier.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm set for life by no stretch of the imagination is that true, but I've been able to build a company now and a business that allows me to kind of be creative with my future, I guess is a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
I'm not, you know, I still have to work every day by no means. If I take a month off, and we'll do an episode on what it's like when you have a bad month because they happen. The market goes down or whatever. But at the same time, like I'm excited to get golfing this week. Renewed my membership this year. That's something that I never ever thought I'd be able to have is a golf membership. Wow, what
Yeah.
a crazy, crazy thing. Yeah, Tuesdays, like I primarily work out of a home office. We do have my brokerage has office space, but I choose to work out of my home office. I'm at home a lot. I can cut my grass at 10:30 in the morning if I don't have client calls or meetings. I can, shut it down at 3 o'clock on some afternoons if, hey, you know what, tomorrow the calendar's packed, but today it's kind of light. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna just put my feet up. I'm gonna, you know, sit on the deck, or I'm gonna, take my wife and we're gonna go for a dinner, and
For
we're
sure.
gonna go see a movie at 3 in the afternoon. Like
Yeah.
those are real things that can happen once you get yourself established and set up. What about
Yeah.
your life?
Yeah. 100%. Well, I think
Going to plan?
yeah, no, it is. Like it's again, if I look back as a young kid, like I don't even know well, actually, I do know. Actually, I shouldn't say it out loud because it's probably some of my passwords, um, but like as a kid, I wanted to be a tow truck driver, right? And like
Really?
just like as a little, I don't know why I thought they were cool, and they still are cool. But that's, and then eventually I wanted to be a teacher because my dad was a teacher and my
Yep.
grandpa was a principal, and then eventually I went to university and I really liked psychology. And then I'm like, I want to be a psychologist. I want to be a professor because I just enjoyed that time of my life. And then I took a summer job that was a sales job. And I'd always worked in like hospitality, restaurants, that type of thing. And then I took a sales job and all of a sudden I flourished and I had no idea I had it in me, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of opened my eyes. And then I did a bunch of other jobs and I went back to school and did a master's degree and all this stuff. And then I just was like, I felt like something was missing, like that dog in me. Like I said, like I just wanted to go get more, right? And I wanted to do, just take control of my life. And so if I look back to high school and said, probably be a mortgage broker, I mean, I wouldn't have known what that was. And I didn't even really know what one was until like 10 years after high school until I became one, right? So
That's crazy.
and randomly, one of our buddies, one of my wife's friends, her husband is a mortgage broker, and we were all hanging out. Now I told my wife, I'm like, every time I see that guy, he's happy. Like, what is he like? What's his deal? And we started chatting. He's a mortgage legit. I'm like, and so I talked with him one day. I'm like, man, you're always happy. And so he told me like this is what he does for work, and so that's kind of what I started. So it's it's been great, and some of the cool things are like I just came back from a 4 week remote work session from the desert where I just worked at an Airbnb and lived, and you can't do that with a lot of careers, right? So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. And cool story. I didn't know some of that stuff that you just shared, but yeah, it's interesting how you get into it. I'll share a little bit about, I guess, how
Yeah.
I got into it because again, realtor was not on my list of like things I was going to be when I grow up.
Hey,
When I
wait,
was
Ty,
younger,
sorry to interrupt. How do you, okay, like this is maybe up for debate because I've heard people in your industry call it differently. How, are you realtors or realtors?
realtor.
Okay, I've heard some realtors refer to themselves as realtors. So I was just
Those are
curious.
real. I can't say it. It's not
No.
political.
Okay, anyway, sorry. I just
They're no, they're realtors.
okay, realtors. Okay, cool. That again, I know that, but it drives me absolutely bonkers when they actually refer to themselves incorrectly. Anyways,
Real idiots. Just kidding.
okay, anyways, continue. So
Anyways,
you got into
yeah.
the
So
industry.
I'm a naturally a very creative person. When I was younger, I used to write little books and stories and things all the time. I went to school for television production and photography.
Hmm,
My whole original gig was I wanted to be a camera operator for Hockey Night in Canada. That was my
cool,
dream
dude.
job. Yeah. So I went to school for that, and when I got out of school, the industry was transitioning from like standard definition to high definition.
Ooh,
And I know we're in 4K now, so it's dating myself a bit. But when that happened, all these companies, anyone who did anything with live broadcasting, had to make a massive investment in new cameras, all new computer systems. Like it cost them a fortune to do this. And that was right smack dab as I graduated. So
no.
yeah, so nobody had any money to hire anyone. It was like you can come intern for free, and I did do some free internships, but places like Hockey Night in Canada, whatever, you got to be a pro to get on those cameras. They don't just
Of
hire
course.
interns and whatever. So long story short, I ended up in Winnipeg. I did some stuff with like global news and some local broadcasting stuff here. Started my own photography company and did all that kind of stuff. But I'd always been in sales. Like I was in sales from when I was, so I got a job stocking shelves, and I was only supposed to just be as an electronics store. Got a job stocking shelves, and I just couldn't help myself. Started talking to clients,
Nice.
customers in the store. And the owner came down and said, "Do you want to try sales?" And I was like, "I don't know. Sure, I guess. Do I make more money?" And he was like, "Well, if you could sell some stuff, yeah." So I started selling TVs and sound systems, and I'm just being a techie nerd that I am, did really well at that. And from there, I was always in some sort of sales. So when the broadcasting thing didn't work out, I got into the auto industry, selling marketing and selling websites and things like that for car dealerships. So you take everything that I kind of knew and then like the sales background and then the marketing background and put them together, it sort of makes like a Swiss Army knife for real estate. And I always liked real estate because I'm like, man, these houses are gorgeous. My dad, built houses and fixed things, and he was a handyman, so we were always constantly at people's houses doing roofs and siding and renovations for people. So it just was felt like a natural fit. And it was funny. I actually
Cool.
wanted to do it when I was 21, but I had a decent corporate job that was
Yeah.
safe. And I was like, why would I mess that up? So I didn't.
Wow.
I wish I had in
Yeah.
hindsight, but but maybe I wish I hadn't because I was
Mm.
pretty immature back then and did some really dumb stuff and probably would have failed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's true, right? And like, but and maybe it'd be another episode, but just talking about exactly those things, like like taking a leap from the safety net, right? Like a lot of people
yeah.
have really good pensions and security and benefits, right? Where it's tough to they call them the golden handcuffs. It's tough to like take a
hmm
leap, right? So
Well, and when I did it, like failure wasn't an option. Like I had kids and a wife and a house and
yeah,
vehicle payments, and it was like there's no room for error here. So there was a lot of pressure. So yeah, so when I got into it, that was my background, and I still use all that stuff in today's job. I take my own photos, do a lot of video. I think I have the best real estate website in the market, but that's just my own opinion and my mom's.
it's really good.
But
I don't know. It's really good. But like, but no, but just to interrupt, like, it is one of those things too where, um, oh, I lost my train of thought. But basically, just taking a stab. Oh yeah,
golden
like
handcuffs.
golden handcuffs. And so same thing with me. I was making a decent salary. My wife was making a decent salary, and we were like average income, right? And it was great. We had stability. We had a small mortgage. Like life was amazing. But in my role, maybe a little different than yours, but like yeah, we don't really get paid until the people move into the home, and it's typically a week to to 4 weeks after moving in when we get the paid pay from the lender. So
Yep.
I don't think I got paid for 3 months, 3 to 4 months. So we had to take out a chunk of our investments, and then I had to dip into my line of credit for a little bit.
Yep.
And my wife was like, I stand behind you, Paul. We're gonna do this. You're gonna kill it. And then we never looked back. And the crazy thing was I started, I think end of January in that calendar year.
Yep.
And by the end of the year, it's funny, I had made to the penny, it was pretty much the exact same as what my salary would have been at my previous job.
Wild.
So I mean, like it was cool where it was like, wow. And then every year it just grew for sure.
Yeah, and maybe this will be a nice segue into our next episode. Maybe we'll do the next one on the whole commission thing. But I'll just say it's the same in our industry too, and it's worth noting if you're considering making the jump. If you sell a house on your first day of being a realtor, you don't get paid for like at least a month.
Hmm.
You should have 3 to 6 months of income set aside for this, and that's just with like any business. You got to be
Yeah.
able to live with no money for a while because you're not going to get any, right?
Well,
And as soon as you do make some, like you said earlier, the fees are going to eat most of it up.
yeah,
And you don't
yeah.
get paid until it's like a couple weeks after possession. So if you sell a house on day one and possession isn't for two
Two
months,
months.
you don't get paid for 2 weeks after that 2 months has passed, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Takes
yeah.
time for title to transfer. None of the money moves.
Well,
Nobody gets
no.
paid. So
And
it's
take
tough. You really got to be set up. And I did the same, man. We had a little nest egg that was supposed to be used for other things and spent
There
it
you
all.
go. Also, one more thing, take out
Invested it.
get approved for every line of credit you can prior to quitting your job. Once you quit your job, it's basically the things that you need. You can't really get them when you need them. So, get approved for the
Yes.
lines of credit before you quit your job. Get licensed before you quit your job. But
Get a car.
yeah, yeah, do it all first. But
Because you
anyways,
can't
like
do anything for 2 years.
it's
Once
hard
you are self-employed, getting financing in any kind of way is
stuff.
almost impossible for 2 years. You need 2 years of tax returns to be able to show the bank that you make money. So don't think you're gonna buy a car or you're gonna buy a
A
house or
house,
you're gonna
no.
get a line of credit or a new credit card or anything. You gotta have work with what you got for two
Yeah,
years.
yeah,
We
that's
live on
it.
cash, to be honest, man. Like we hardly finance anything anymore, and that's just like a personal choice that we've made, just like
Flex.
paying interest.
I'm just
We don't
kidding.
have that much stuff.
No, no,
So,
no, no,
but
no.
no, like learn to live on cash. That would be a huge advice, and we'll get into that on the next episode.
Hmm.
Learning to live with a commission-based spouse. But yeah, it's this is gonna be a fun journey, man. I'm excited to kind of document things we've gone through, things we're gonna go through, and things we're gonna be going through almost in real time. And if you're looking at starting a business, join us,
Yeah,
subscribe, do all that
yeah,
fun stuff, follow us along.
yeah. Let us know what you want to hear about as the show goes along. We're always happy to just listen to feedback, and yeah, we're gonna be truthful and honest, and just kind of it's basically just like a real look at how we operate our business and our family life, and just happy to have you guys all along for the ride here.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, but it's one that if you're doing this, you should invest some time into learning how others do it who have had success. And I think Paul and myself fit that mold. So yeah, subscribe, like, comment, reach out anytime, and we will catch you on the next episode. Thanks for
Chat.
listening.
Thanks for listening. Chat soon.
Bye.